Alright, so I feel like this is gonna be a good one. How's it going? Hope you're all doing well. And today we're looking at the best $700 gaming PC build. This is my PC, guys. So yeah, if you like the video, please press on that like button. That really helps me. And check out the links in the description if you want to build a PC like this or a PC similar to that one. I have been using it for quite a time now. So yeah, we will talk about the PC parts that I chose and then we'll get to the benchmarks. So without wasting any more time, let's get it with the CPU. And the CPU, we're looking at my favorite CPU, my favorite gaming CPU, last year, the AMD Ryzen 5 5600. Now this CPU right now goes for around $140. This is a 6-core 12-threaded CPU. It's got a really good IPC at the time. Right now it still holds up as one of the best budget gaming CPUs. But yeah, for a 6-core 12-threaded CPU, it will hold my GPU just fine, no problem. And I'm playing any game I want, which is FPS intensive at 240 frames per second. And a game like Warzone, I'm getting around 144 FPS, and you'll see that in the benchmark. And on top of that, the CPU intensive tasks like video editing, for example, I've been having a breeze with it so far. So yeah, this is basically one of my favorite picks of all time, the Ryzen 5 5600. And the board, what I went with doesn't necessarily mean that you should go with, but hey, I went with the Gigabyte B550 AMD S3H. Now, actually, the Ryzen board is kind of outdated right now. You can, swap this PC parts with an i5 12400F PC to get an actually better upgrade path. But still, with the B550 AMD S3H, you have the upgrade path to something like a 5800 X3D. But then you have the debate whether you should go with a 5800 X3D or a 13600K in the future, so I'd 100% leave that to you. And of course, the links will be down in the description with all the compatible parts. With the RAM, I went with 32GB of DDR4 3200MHz RAM. Some people like to go with 16 gigs, but I find myself actually utilizing over 16 gigs for actually, I'm content creating, so I usually open a lot of tabs here and there. I usually do video editing while opening a lot of tabs and researching. That's why 32 gigs was actually really good for me. But hey, if it's not for you, you can also go with 16 gigs, no problem. It will also get the job done. But yeah, we still are within our budget, so yeah, why not? And the SSD, I would recommend you go with the 1TB NVMe SSD. Again, my PC is different. I have a lot of mechanical hard drives here and there. I mean, a total of around 4TB of mechanical hard drive storage and a 240GB SSD, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you should do so. A 1TB SSD will give you decent space and will give you the fastest boot up times and loading speeds for your first time building a budget PC. While the GPU, this is the star of the show. I would recommend you go with something like the AMD RX 6600. Right now it goes for around $240. The renewed version usually goes for under $200 from Amazon. But yeah, since we cannot access the RX 6600 in my place, I went with something different. I went with the RTX 2060 Super. Now you'll see in a lot of benchmarks that these GPUs are pretty much similar or barely identical GPUs. 1080p performance is pretty much the same, but with the 2060 Super you get better ray tracing performance. But with the cost, the 6600 usually runs cooler and it's actually more power efficient. But since my PC will hold it fine, no problem, and the power supply is more than enough, the RTX 2060 seems to be a very good obvious choice for me. But yeah, I'd leave that to you. I mean, if I had the time or money to get the RX 6600, I'd do so 100% because again, it's pretty much the same GPU. Now the case, I went with my case, the case that I'm finding locally that goes for $65. I actually found that on Newegg. So yeah, you should go with something similar for $65, If you want RGB fans here and there, I'd leave an option down in the description if you're interested. And as you can see right now, this is a case that goes for $60 to $70 that gets the job done. And the power supply, I went with the EVGA, I think. I can't remember exactly, but I believe it's either a 450 watt or 500 watt. But anyways, that's for EVGA. That's an 80 plus bronze certified power supply. Again, based on PC Power Picker, my PC doesn't consume that much power because the RTX 2060 Super is kind of like a 150 watt TDP GPU, 180, something in that territory. So yeah, if you went with the RX 6600, it's actually more power efficient. So yeah, it will hold my parts really fine. But yeah, that's it for the parts, and let's get it with the benchmarks. Alright, so looking at the benchmarks, you know, even though that's my favorite part of any gaming PC video, I really hate doing it. But anyways, Valorant at 1080p low settings, I didn't actually test it. This was based on Shadow 7's video, but hey, as you can see, we were getting around 360 FPS at 1080p low settings, which is awesome for a PC like that. But the games we tested, we got Call of Duty Warzone at 900p lowest settings, we were getting around 120 FPS. Now the reason I went with 900p because I really wanted to go with 144 FPS, but without actually sacrificing that much quality. But you know, 144 FPS seems to be a really hard thing to do with Warzone 2, you know. We also got Red Dead Redemption 2 and at 1080p 60 FPS, you know, ultra settings, so pretty much everything set to ultra except for particles quality. I don't know why, this is just the in-game settings, you know. We were getting around 55 to 60 frames per second. The average was actually 53, but most of the time it was 60 frames per second. And we got also Rainbow Six Siege at 1080p ultra settings based on the in-game settings. Of course, I didn't, you know, went everything ultra. We were averaging around 220 FPS. So yeah, this is a really popular game when it comes to benchmarking, and that's why we went with it. And the final game that really got me surprised by the results, I got really surprised because it's a really beautiful game, which is Cyberpunk 2077. 1080p ultra settings, RTX set to the only thing that's behind the high settings, so just one tad behind the highest settings, you know, and we were averaging around 45 FPS. I got really, you know, impressed by that. That's actually really good. This is so good, you know. The game looked really good and it was very playable, you know. So yeah, I really wouldn't ask for more for a PC like that, and it makes me want to get, you know, a very good PC to play this game at the highest settings possible. It's actually a beautiful game, even though it was a mess when it launched. So yeah, as you can see, that's been it. If you like the video, press on that like button and stay tuned for the $500 gaming PC. Another PC coming down the horizon really soon. And yeah, that's been it. To see you on the next one, please subscribe and peace.